Ladies and gentlemen, our country is falling apart.
The nation is in mourning tonight.
Our institutions are failing. Crime is out of control. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit. No holds barred. The Cold Truth with Kim Cole. The power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45. It is our duty to fix it. We are touching on every sector of society. Race, class, and corruption. Nothing is off limit.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for tuning in to The Cold Truth. I am Kim Cole. Now, I know a lot of you all were looking out for me yesterday. I do apologize that, I was unable to attend yesterday's program. All the same, I'm really happy to be here, and, I am pretty excited about this afternoon's discussion. Now, we're going to discuss this evening men against violence against women. And I remind you that we are streaming live on Facebook at The Cold Truth. You can also email us, thecoldtruth@gmail.com, and you can also check us out on YouTube. Type in Kim Cole or The Cold Truth, and our live stream is going to pop up, definitely. Now, a bit of background. From an outsider's perspective, aggression and violence is increasing at alarming rates in Trinidad and Tobago. Domestic violence is escalating to murder, and while many may raise questions about women who stay in abusive relationships, some going so far as to say victim shame women who live in violent situations, not enough is being done and not enough is being said about the perpetrators of the violence. What would trigger a man to attack, beat, and kill a woman? Why do some men become violent in relationships and not others? Are we failing our young men by failing to discuss healthy ways for them to manage their anger? Today we have on set with us from the group Men Against Violence Against Women, MOVO, Mr. Donald Bermont. Now, Mr. Bermont is a parent teacher. He studied and is a lifelong student of architecture, law, social psychology, political science, and parenting science. He is also employed as a specialist in the housing and settlement development sector, a natural growth architect, and a domestic violence counselor. He has a daughter, 33 years plus, and a grandson, 4 years plus. All his work has been very rewarding, enjoyable, and tremendously spiritual with strong philanthropic values. However, the only one which returned his love was parenting science, the fatherhood of his daughter, and the grandparenting of his grandson. So, my dear Mr. Bermont, welcome to The Cold Truth.
Thank you, Kim. It's a beautiful name. It's the first time I've heard a person's name linked into the title of a program, and I think that was a very great initiative.
Thank you so much, my dear. So can you share with us, how did MOVO start and what is the group about?
MOVO, I was a friend to someone called Mary King.
Oh, wow.
Who was involved in an organization called the National Women's Caucus. And she knew of my work and asked me to be on a committee to deal with men who are being violent. So MOVO started in a women's organization, a feminist organization. And after 9 months, you could say we had a natural birth. After 9 months, 2 other men and myself decided to go on our own and register a non-profit company, Men Against Violence Against Women. That was in 1994.
I mean, that is pretty interesting that you have men actually taking the step to say that, it's wrong. Or we are men and we are against, men being violent toward women, for want of putting it.
You're correct, Kim. And it's not new. When we came out, there was a fatherhood movement in Jamaica, and there was a 50-year-old movement internationally of men who are looking at issues that men are faced with. Their parenting issues, and men also are victims of violence. And so it's not, Mavo is not brand new. It's just a continuation of a movement.
Right.
And secondly, Kim, if you are spiritual and you understand that God created us to continue our generation, you will know then that creation is one aspect of creation, then there is protection of what was created, and then there is providing for. So inherently, innate in all men, as in all women, is the need to protect and provide for what is created. So this is not a sociological thing. This is a spiritual and biological thing. It's logical.
Right.
That if we have to survive, we have to protect what we create, provide for it, and who creates it. I work with sperm. Valuable as it is, the woman can make a boy without my Y chromosome, but the woman carries the child for 9 months. She breastfeeds for X amount of months or years, and has a different type of love from a man. So without the woman, there will be no creation. Without me, there won't be any either. But still, without the woman, there will be none.
Absolutely. Now, what have you found to be the general attitude of our population to domestic violence?
For years, it has been swept under the carpet. For years, our policymakers have not recognized that the care and nurturing in a home is a productive effort. So our government accounting system has no record of home care in the gross domestic product. They will measure the architect, the cleaner, the gardener. Everybody else produces work, but the work done in the home is still not yet considered as and recognized as productive work. And when that is done, it is a very simple way to find a means to get income for it.
Wow, I feel as though I'm sitting next to a radical feminist. Is this Thatcher, Are you?
No,
Did you study Thatcherism?
No, well,
no, because
well, some people may think my views are feminist in nature. I am a man with the understanding that God created me in a certain way, right? To make sure my species continue, the human race, and that meant protecting the woman, protecting the children, right? So if that is considered feminism, so be it.
I mean, I think that you already have the support of, all of my, all of the women who view my program. But I mean, all the same, let's stick to script, just a little bit before we digress. Now, according to your profile, MOCOR's mission statement is to reduce, in the first instance, and eventually eradicate unacceptable violence in society, with an emphasis on domestic violence and violence against women, using a multidisciplinary approach focusing on correcting behavioral skill and belief system deficits. Can you explain the multidisciplinary approach and share with us some of your outreach work?
Kim, at the moment, the standard model for analyzing dysfunction in relationships is called the Duluth Model. This was done over how many years ago by a group of 200 women in America. And unfortunately, the Duluth Model says the man is doing this and the man is doing that. The man is pointed to as the perpetrator, the main instrument in violence to women. No attention is paid in the Duluth Model to the violence women do to women. women do to children.
Right.
No attention in that model is paid to what society does to women by their procedures, by their practices, by their policies. So our organization came up with a model that's called the BSD syndrome, where we're saying that everybody, Kim, you would have a belief system.
Right.
You would have a behavior skill. You would have a biological system. And you would have what you call baggage. Whatever your childhood caused you trauma, you still carry around. Right? What biologically, if a doctor can assess whether you have high blood pressure, diabetes, there are medical conditions that affect people. And then behaviors. Now, if you have a child and your child is being naughty, and your first action is to slap that child down, then you have a behavior skill deficit. If you are in a relationship with a man, and the man was brought up to believe that God is in his image, he doesn't see any woman in God, and he's the head of the home. And if you also, as a woman, I was brought up to think that the man is the head of the home, and God is in man is in God's image, then you and the man, the husband, have what you call a belief system deficit.
Right.
Because both men and women came from God. So if you talk about God as a man and not respect that God also has a woman into what is God, then you are disrespecting, you are devaluing, and you are believing something very wrong. And the crux of the belief system, the largest belief system deficit is that there is no female in God. There are religions that have a female, but generally men do not feel that there is any female in God. So there is no need to value women and respect women or treat them as equal. And 2,000 years after Jesus Christ has died, we still have not understood the real message Jesus Christ was saying. Women are equal, but they are different. Now, I studied law, and in law there is a principle called equity. When your two people are arguing and there are differences between the two persons, the principle of equity comes into play. So if I am a fireman and you are a firewoman, and they give me 200 pounds to walk up 40 feet, giving you 200 pounds to walk up 40 feet is wrong, because you are smaller in structure, you are not as strong. So equity means that when there are differences, they must be considered in dealing with everything in life. Absolutely.
Now, what's on the agenda for MOCOR for 2018, and are there any specific campaigns that the public should be aware of?
Well, we are presently preparing an opinion on the parenting policy that is now being discussed. We are preparing further discussions on the national gender policy for Trinidad and Tobago. I sat on the cabinet committee that reviewed that draft in 2012, the draft gender policy. I sat on the cabinet committee in 2003 to analyze the institution of the family in Trinidad and Tobago 14 years ago. And one of our recommendations was putting into place a national family policy. We know that a family is not only about mother and father. A family is about the environment they live in, and a family is about what impacts on them in the environment. Now they have come in after 14 years with a parenting policy, a very watered down, trust to deal with. And Kim, you are quite right. The violence in our society is hideous, hideous. It is so hard. I mean, I was working for a minister for almost 5 years. And when my daughter got married, husband was abusive. She didn't say anything until one day he broke down her office and nearly killed her. Immediately, I told my boss, I'm not well. I cannot work knowing that my daughter out there is threatened. And I handed up $200,000 of income. I am a victim of domestic violence. I lost so that I can stay home and make sure my daughter lives and my grandson lives.
So in a nutshell, you're saying that there are not sufficient systems in place to treat with?
Not at all. I sat on the committee to review the domestic violence legislation in 1997. Over 20 years. And that needs critical review. When I went to court with my daughter for domestic violence, you managed to tell me, Mr. Beaumont, you're not a lawyer, get out of here. I am the father. My daughter is afraid to face the husband, even in court. And I am there because I feel I'm strong.
Moral support?
Moral support. And you telling the father, that Domestic Violence Act has to be reviewed. There's a lot to be done, Kim, and people are just playing the fool.
Right. Now, I want to go back to the questions I raised in the opening. What, in your opinion, would trigger a man to attack, beat, and kill a woman?
Kim, in every instance, it has to be analyzed individually. Every man and every woman has a belief system. Every man and every woman have behavior skills. So where I can turn a blind eye, walk away, use calm language,
right,
somebody else will not be able to do it.
Right.
Everybody walks around with baggage. If your father banged you, like if you were a dustbin, or your mother banged you, you know, you walk with that. So you might come up with a hate for man
or woman
and treat your husband, right, or a hate for woman. And the same thing if a mother does that to a boy. Right? So in every instance where there is male violence to society and female violence to society, you need to analyze them individually. And you have to look at what are the BSDs each person is living with. All right.
Now, why do some men become violent in relationships and not others?
When you say in relationships, in family relationships, in man-woman relationships?
Man-woman relationships, yeah.
Well, there are common strains that we can climb on. There is the power issue. There is the insecurity issue. There is, well, we go back to what you believe in.
Your belief system.
What skills you have been developed or you have been allowed to. What pressures are put on you to survive and the demands of manhood, fatherhood, womanhood, motherhood. There are a multiplicity of factors that you will interface with when you are looking at a dysfunctional, a violent behavior.
Right. Now, do you think that currently are we feeling, our young men, by feeling to discuss healthy ways to manage anger?
Yes, yes we are. Because there is no school curriculum that deals with anger management, conflict resolution, healthy relationships. We have material out there free for over 20 years that still is not being used.
Right.
Right? So, and the politicians, the people in power are unable to, unwilling to, or do not have the will to make the necessary changes to protect our generations for years.
Right.
So what we are living with is a neglect. The Organization of American States is having their summit in Chile, in Peru, Lima, this month. And one of the things they are going to put on the table is that inefficiency, incompetence, neglect are corruption elements. So governments now in the future who are inefficient, in being neglectful and incompetent are contributing to corruption and will be identified as corrupt governments.
Right. Now we're going to stick a pin. Our telephone lines are open, 622-9785, 628-6093. Our topic for discussion is domestic violence, and in studio I do have a lovely gentleman by the name of Donald Burmont, who is of the McCaw Men Against Violence Against Women, which is an NGO that was birthed from
a feminist organization.
A feminist organization.
Yes, National Women's Caucus.
Now, I must say that you made reference to contribution in the household as it relates to the woman and the lack of value that is put on the contribution. I mean, you said that you studied law, so I mean, when we talk in matrimonial law and all of that, and divorce, the contribution of the woman in the household, sometimes it is factored into the
the final settlement, yes.
Right, in the final settlement when it comes to divorce. Now, when you're dealing with unmarried parents and children in a lot of homes, men in the society, and yes, I'm saying men in the society, seem to have the view and they have been cultured to believe that, well, that is she child or that is she children, so that is what you have to do, that is what you're supposed to do. And they put absolutely no value on that. And I made mention of that because a couple days ago we were discussing child maintenance in this country. And the ridiculous amounts of monies that men pay, or men are ordered to pay. Well, in most instances it's men, because women have parental, well, they have care and control of the child. So that's for that reason I say men. But all the same, men, they pay maintenance. They want to dictate to the mother what she ought to do with the maintenance, which I am totally against. And they also, in many instances, don't pay the child maintenance. The amounts accumulate over a period of time, and then the mother has to take some really stringent means of action, taking out warrants, etc., etc. Now, I am of the view, and I would advocate for the introduction of a bare minimum amount when it comes to child maintenance, simply because the law states that a father or a parent can only pay what he can afford. You would understand that in many instances, some men pay $200 a month, $300 a month. Do you think that that is adequate to look after a child?
Not at all. I'm taking care of my grandson, and I know. Not at all. When you undervalue a woman, you also undervalue what a woman brings to this world. Yes, you carry the sperm. She can't have that child. But she does a large part of bringing that child into the world. And she has a maternal love that we do not have as men. We have a paternal love. So when you undervalue a woman, you are undervaluing that offspring that is yours. And Kim, it is a fact that I have proved many years in my research. There is a boomerang effect to abuse. So you abuse the mother, you won't see it until you have to go into your pocket and pull out $100,000 because your son pick up a gun and try to shoot somebody. Well,
I mean, unfortunately, you have a lot of women in this country who are financially abused when it comes to child maintenance and all of that, and they don't even know that they are being abused.
That is a fact. Our educational system is not as outreaching as it should. And surprisingly, we have a lot of female politicians in top positions, and they seem to allow this neglect to continue. So it's not, Kim, it's not men alone, right? If women have the will, and you are to position in society a political system where you can influence action, and you're not doing it, you are failing.
Or you're part of the problem.
You are part of the problem.
Right. Now, every month we see, and just a reminder, our telephone lines are open 622-9785, 628-6093. We invite you to be a part of this afternoon's discussion. Now, every month we see these gruesome headlines pop up in our nation's newspapers. Now, when you get to the story, you realize a pattern of domestic violence existed before it escalated to murder. Now, what I would like to find out, Mr. Bennett, is what are your thoughts on how our law enforcement handles reports of domestic violence? And before you answer that, we're going to stop to take this call. Hi, good afternoon, caller, you're live.
Evening, Miss Cole.
Good evening.
Well, you never cease to surprise me. Here am I, with this special gentleman, Mr. Berman. I hope I pronounced the name correctly.
Yes.
Mr. Berman, it's a pleasure to see you. It's a pleasure to hear you speak in defense of women. You know, growing up, I grew up in England like Miss Kim. I've always thought that a man should be a gentleman and treat a lady like a lady. Open the door. You are the stronger of the two sexes, so you know, you protect. But you know, I have to tell you, one of the things I noticed growing up as I became a teenager and a young lady is that our world seems, I'm in the workplace now, and the world is geared towards the man. It's a man's world. All the laws, everything protects the man. It's only recently that women fought to get the rights to stay home for a number of years to have their babies, because having babies are normal. You're not thinking of the big belly and nice bumps on your back and frequent visits to the washroom and all those things, and then that traumatic experience of giving birth, which is joyous of course, but it is traumatic and painful and all those things. But I'm going to stop there. Coming back, it's a man's world, and we have not changed the laws to suit. We go back to salaries, we go back again to time off to look after children, all those things, and it has never changed. And you rightfully said, Mr. Berman, and I'm scratching my little sofa here.
But Tanti,
women in position, women who can change the laws to protect us. But you know what? We women are our worst
enemies.
Yes, Miss Kim.
Absolutely.
We women are our worst enemies. We're not changing the laws, and the crime is going on, and every day you are hearing about, yesterday was a sad day, and come on, one of our ministers, females, get up and do something, pass a law, speak on our behalf. Mr. Berman is doing it, but we need more. We need it in the school. We need programs on the television funded by the government. Come on, only then will these young men become good fathers and also bring up their children and teach the boys to understand, to accept rejection. You have to, because most of these crimes are because a female rejects you. And that is the main crux of the matter. Look at all the cases. Accept your rejection. There are other women out there, and we have to teach them. We have to get the psychologists and the who is who. Miss Kim does a wonderful program. Miss Kim, I don't know how to thank you. Every day that I sit and I look at my country going downwards, you come up with something to solve it. And the female ministers today, I call upon you, look at the program and learn. Mr. Berman is here. Mr. Berman, you have a blessed day. Miss Kim pants out, and I'm locked on.
Thank you so much for a very passionate discussion this afternoon, Tanti. And I can understand Tanti's frustration now, because Tanti grew up in the UK. And I mean, in London, in the UK, we had a Margaret Thatcher, and I had great expectations of our, last woman prime minister. Yeah, I said that. I thought that, we would have seen more rights when it comes to women and children. I'm not saying that we didn't see some, but I expected more. I had hoped that, she would have been a Margaret Thatcher. Now, Mr. Berment, sorry, I do have a Miss Maven, sorry. I have a message for you from our online feed, and she says, I know Donald Berment. He is a national treasure. Tell him Dr. Huggins said so, if he could ever remember me from 14 years ago. Yes, you have been touching people's lives. Yes. From, 14 years ago. But getting back to the question that I asked you before Tanti called in, I wanted to find out what are your thoughts on how our law enforcement handles reports of domestic violence.
There is a manual that the police have been given directions on how it's very strict. Police stations have to follow it. They answer to the commissioners. The police are trying their best. But what happens is that a police officer will put a man before the court for a domestic violence matter, and then the wife will go and tell the magistrate she forgive him and she would like to drop the case. Right. So they are frustrated. Now, we have been asked by the court on instances before they make a decision, a determination, to investigate a family and report. Right. They can do that in every instance. If a man is brought before the court and the woman wants to pull out, all the magistrate has to do is order or request that a report be made by a counseling organization.
But I mean, I would say to you, at least from my own experience in the UK, and I think when my show grows and stuff like that, I think I will go to London and, probably juxtapose the manner in which things are handled internationally so that we in this country can see, the hogwash that we receive as service. I mean, if you and I are having a discussion and you raise your voice a bit too loud and the neighbor calls the police, you would swear the police was downstairs waiting because they respond immediately. In addition to that, they would come in, interview both parties, ensure that everything is in order before they leave. Now, in an instance where, let's just say that, you hit me or you abuse me or hit me or anything like that, and I have bruises or marks on my skin, they arrest you immediately. They would naturally remove one person from the volatile situation, and subsequently, even if I choose to not pursue charges, they pursue the charges regardless of what I say, because they document everything. They take pictures. The pictures are admissible in court, and so on and so forth. So I'm not saying, well, as far as I am concerned, I don't think that the policy is there to treat with
not strong
these
enough.
Issues.
The germs are there, but germinating them into fruitful action like what you're talking about, what happens in the UK and in other divisions, it's not being done.
I mean, it's like chalk and cheese. But I'm going to stop to take this call. Hi, good afternoon. Caller, you live? Hi, good afternoon. 622-978-562-86093. Now, I think the call dropped, but are the existing laws, do you think the laws are sufficient to tackle prevention efforts?
Well, the Domestic Violence Act first came, and this was one of the errors when it was laid and accepted in 1997. We said, before you put this out there firmly, spend 6 months educating the public that the Domestic Violence Act is a gender-neutral act.
Right.
In other words, if the woman, most women don't beat the men. Most women does destroy them with their words.
Right.
So the man drinking alcohol and playing on the fool is a man whose self-esteem has been destroyed.
Okay.
Right? So domestic violence protects men also. So a man can go to court and say, look, judge, she just tell me she next man does do it better. A man could go and say that. No, you know, because that is psychological abuse.
Right.
Right? A man could not be working, the woman working, she bringing home $8,000. The man, a laborer, he ain't working. But he has a car, he takes care of it. He drops his wife to work every day, brings her back, and he's a bodyguard wherever she is. So he's not putting money into the home, but he's good. So his value as a chauffeur with a car is $5,000 a month.
Right.
And his driver as a bodyguard, 5,000.
Right.
So she put in 8 and he put in 10.
Right.
And she quarreling with him.
Great. Now, unfortunately, when the role is reversed and a woman cooks, you can't pay a chef, that is okay, so we're going for $6,000 for a chef. We're talking about laundry service, that's $1,500. We're talking about the housekeeping, the maid work, that's the next $4,000 because it's full time. We're talking about caring for the child. If you had to go and put your child in full-time or full-time
daycare,
babysitting
preschool,
or
etc.,
daycare, that's the next set of money.
And then your personal comfort. If you cannot get that, no, well, if you cannot be, if a woman cannot give you the comfort you need, the cost for it outside is tremendous, and the risk that you would at her. Now, Kim, you're not saying, you're talking the gospel. This has not been appreciated and valued as productivity.
Well, could it be that legislation has been lacking? Because in the UK, again, I will tell you that in instances when, well, Schedule 1 under the Children Act 1989 speaks specifically to unmarried parents and, I mean, contribution of the mother in most instances in situations where the household split and where finances permit. I think the last time I checked, they calculate the mother's worth and the contribution to be worth £30,000 a year.
Now, is that in their gross domestic product analysis? No, but all right, you might not know. But government accounting has something called GDP.
Right.
Where they can tabulate every single economic activity in the country. That, in my knowledge, is not considered here. I don't know if it's considered. Because if it is considered and put into as something recognizable,
right,
the means for finding an income for it is so simple. And it will not cost the government 1 cent, not 1 black cent from the taxpayers' money is going to go into that. But when they're ready to find out, come and ask me how to do it.
622-9785-628-6093. But I mean, in addition to that, what you would have had now taking place in the UK, especially in situations where the home is broken and the mother is reliant on child support, when you have single-parent households now, you would see that the mother would leave her job and just stay home and look after the child and sign on all the children to benefits.
Yeah, because Kim, that a mother, a woman generally, now don't get me wrong, the statistics will tell you that women are the worst abusers of children.
Ooh.
Yes, every single no, I'm not fooling you. Every single statistics will tell you. But then you have to understand what are the causative factors to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Yes, I see where you're going with it, and we're going to stop just to take this call. Thank you for holding. Good afternoon. You are live, caller.
Yes, again, Miss Kim, good evening again.
Yes.
And Mr. Gomez, again, good evening. Miss Kim, you brought up an important, most pertinent question. The woman in the house and her contribution. That has never to date in Trinidad and Tobago been recognized that when a woman stays home, her work is nothing. But I can tell you, having worked at 54 Lombard Street in London and having come to Trinidad and see the difference where the man go in the kitchen and help his wife cook. No, that is her job, and that is nothing. I had my husband helping me in England, in the house, and we bought the children, what have you. When you come to Trinidad, it's a whole different culture. We need you to go to England and spend 6 months and go from top to bottom, record, and call for support. I am here, and come back and air it for people to see. We go on the British system, the Westminster system. Well, then let us see how we treat our mothers and our housewives, and see how important it is, more important, and should be paid more than a doctor and a lawyer. Have a blessed day, Mr. Berman and Ms. Skin.
Thank you.
God bless.
Yes.
That's out.
Thank you so much for your contribution, Tanti. You articulated that women abuse children. Statistics show
Yes,
that
they
women abuse children. And what would be the rationale behind that? Could it be the abuse that the woman
Lack of
receive?
parenting skills. Yes, primarily understanding that children are individuals. And the models that have been used to bring up children is to hit and hit harder and harder and harder until they listen. It's to shout, it's to ridicule, it's to be scornful of.
It's to be raped.
Right. Our models that are being used are wrong. Right? Children, Kim, Gil, it's such a pleasure to deal with my grandson. The attention that my grandson has for me and that my daughter had for me, still has, is what you call a stimulant, is a catalyst to discipline them.
And we're going to stick
You got to break. Yes,
yes, just take this call. Hi, good afternoon, caller. You are live. Welcome.
Yes, Ms. Cole. I called to speak about the truth here this evening.
Yes.
That domestic violence issue that you all have been taking place is not a bed of roses. As I would say, I was married happily. And so happened we managed to separate due to her sister's causing problem. And I decided, that was in 1993, to pay. In those days, I used to work for $3 an hour and $4 an hour as security guard in 1993. And I paid $400. I given it to her for the child, paying for things she take in a certain shop, buying things and selling. And that woman still bring me up for maintenance. Right? I applied for visitation, right? The magistrate inmate and the woman will not bring the child for to see. You understand? So this is not what the gentleman said is goodly so. Some people just have wickedness in their mind. So I decided to go down the other way now. This probation officer taken for her because she's a woman. When I put you back in court for breaching the order, where she's not bringing the child for to see, the magistrate being lenient to her because she's a woman. Now the law is vice versa, but society have it done as when you're a woman, they be very lenient to you. They be very lenient to you. So I got mad, I decided to go to High Court, divorce, I fought custody, and I won custody of my daughter in the High Court, where the judge ordered her to hand over the child forthwith. So people uses this issue. People uses this issue to take advantage of the situation. There is a perpetrator and a respondent in that matter. And like me, I really suffer to the hands of that demonic person I have married to. I pick up in the man there singing bhajan and saying, I don't know what a demon hiding behind the pages of the Bhagavad Gita to destroy me. However, her days had come to an end, and I had nothing to do with it. She took up somebody else, has 2 other children, they haven't found her killers yet. So when it comes to these domestic violence issues, society is very lenient to women no matter what wrong thing they do. The Single Fathers Association came out after that. The probation officer always think for women. I had to see a psychiatrist because a psychiatrist and a doctor, their word is final in any court. What the court could do is ask for a second opinion, and they're free to do so. And a psychiatrist can go against a psychiatrist, right? And this is how society is. You understand? So that is a very, very serious, sensitive issue. And the law always take for women and lenient to them. They want equal rights like men. When you give them a bag of cement, they don't know there's woman. When they start to see them monthly, they start to know they're getting pain. You understand? So this is a situation we just have to go through as men. And with reference to this domestic violence thing, it is very sensitive to touch on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, brother, congratulations on your efforts to get fatherhood control.
I mean,
unfortunately, yes, some women need better directions, need to understand God more. But life goes on, and as a father, you stood up well, and I congratulate you on it. Sad to say, she has lost her life, and this is how the Creator works. You know, and this is a mistake a lot of people make.
No, but I'm saying if it is, I mean, the woman done dead and gone already, and you're still so bitter, then I personally, I just look beyond, you know, I'm not the average thinker. Hi, good afternoon, caller, you're live.
Yes.
Hello? Hello, good afternoon.
Hello?
Yes, my dear, good afternoon.
Hello?
Caller, you're live.
Am I live?
Yes.
Okay, you know, there are many variables in this issue of domestic violence because we have to look at the things that are played on TV, the movies that people look at, the video games that people play, and you see death scenes. A child in a year would see about 100 death scenes, especially in those video games. And then you have the violent music, the violent songs that we have. So all these things play a very high role in the lives of our children or teenagers and also our grown-ups or adults. And also we have the issue of boys following the example of their fathers. And these fathers maybe quite often don't have a very good don't give a very good example. And I think too that government has a big part to play here because in the past there was an organization that vetted the movies that were shown here in Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think that happens anymore. And also, in terms of even TV, movies, video games, government should have a part to play in what is shown in the country. I mean, that's it. There are so many variables in this whole situation of domestic violence.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Ooh. Thank you so much for your contribution, caller. Do we have another caller? Hi, good afternoon, caller, you live? Hello? Yes, Mr. Berman.
Yes, sometimes healing takes a little while. So if a man really loves his children and has been hurt for a number of years, it will take a little while for him to heal.
I think that the problem is people are too emotional. I think that when people, ex-lovers or ex-partners, the minute a relationship breaks down, I don't think that they take the time, as you're rightly saying, to heal themselves. They make a lot of decisions that in the end affect the children tremendously, because these decisions are made with a lot of emotion and they do not take, you know, a sensible approach or a practical approach that would augur well for everybody in the long run. You want to withhold a child from from one parent wants to not allow the other parent to see a child that that parent helped to create. That is not your right. You're denying your child that right by doing that. I mean, that is just the tip of the iceberg, Mr. Berman, but we're going to stop to take this call.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, caller, you live?
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes,
Kim, one of the things I always emphasize is education. And we need to educate our young people into parenting. That's one of our major problems. We need to discourage the child-mother syndrome, where one woman has so many children with so many different fathers. That needs to curb. And according to the gentleman, we need to show our children love. We need to stimulate them with love. When I tell people that I have never hit my son in all his life, well, all his life is 9 years old, right? I have never hit him. People find that unbelievable because you know what the reaction is? Well, I got licks when I was small and nothing happened to me. Really, nothing will happen to you? Now you hitting your children. Now you hitting your grandchildren. And this is how it keeps going on and on. We need to educate people. Education is the major thing in this country. People are too uneducated.
Thank you so much.
And they do things like wild people. And we are saying that child mother no culture thing. That's indisciplined, uneducated.
Thank you so much for your contribution, caller. Education or the lack of education when it comes to disciplining a child. What are your thoughts?
That is correct. You know.
Well, you were saying just now a few minutes ago, you were talking about, you know, the attention that you receive from your grandchildren. I have my daughter also, and I don't believe in beating children.
How
because
old is she?
She's 8 now. I don't believe in beating children. I believe you can discipline a child without whipping, hitting, you know, violence and, you know, speaking to them in a threatening or an abusive manner. When it comes to, well, at least from the experience that I would have had as a first-time parent, I learned that children are like little sponges. They come into the world knowing absolutely nothing, and the only thing that they know is what they are exposed to. So you as a parent, you cannot expect to carry yourself in a particular manner. You speak in a particular manner, but you expect the child to respond to you differently. We have this, there's this old adage, do as I say and don't do as I do. It cannot work that way because the child will pattern themselves based on the environment that he or she is exposed to.
You're correct. Congratulations, you did a good job. You had the right parenting attitude and you still have it. And it is a critical job, parenting. It's the most beautiful job in the world.
Absolutely.
It's the only job that doesn't pay you with money, but gives you hugs and kisses and love. There's nothing to compare to that, right? So, and people, if they don't use the right parenting style, they lose that. So they have lost a child's love. They have also lost giving society.
But they don't look, but I mean, when it comes to parenting, there is no morality involved in it. In fact, I hear a lot of parents emotionally blackmail their children, manipulate their children. You know, they say things like, I don't have to do what I'm doing for you. I don't have to be doing this. I am making a sacrifice. And listen to me, when I hear it, I feel like I can pull all the hairs out of my head because, one, a child didn't ask to come into this world. That's one. When you have a child, when you become a parent, the focus, the primary focus, it becomes the child, or it should immediately become the child. So this concept of you doing without something when you have to look after your child, it's no longer about you as the parent, it is about your child. Unfortunately, parents don't see it this way.
Yes, too many don't. There are a lot of them that do, but too many don't. And that's one of the reasons, that's one of the problems we have in society. And the only time parents realize is when it boomerangs and comes to you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you raise a child, beating a child, slapping a child, or kicking down a child, and all, I saw a video, I see many videos on social media, women beating their children, men beating their children, and stuff like that. I saw a big man beating his big son with trying to beat his son with a spanner on social media just last week. And they don't understand that these behavioral patterns, they remain the same. It isn't going to change. And when it comes to interacting with other people, they become more vicious and more violent.
And it comes back to them. Like I know a parent who brought up their sons just taking the gold at the teeth and hoarding it. So when time comes, all the gold they have and they kill their children, what value is it to you?
Well, I mean, that is a whole other topic for a different day. But do we have time to take one more call?
Yes, you free.
Hi, good afternoon, caller. You are live. Thank you for holding.
Yes, okay. Kim, recently a research was done in an Indian reservation in the States concerning this same domestic violence and why it is so prevalent within the reservation. That's the Indian reservation. And what they came up with is that a lot of the men were living with deep depression, their state of the environment that they live in. And that's what they came up with, that a lot of the men were depressed and living in deep depression. And because of the lack of jobs and the environment and alcoholism and drugs and all these sorts of things. And they did not know what they were suffering with, and they didn't know that how to get out of state of depression. And whenever they're faced with any sort of challenges, the first reaction they would do is by abuse, hitting the woman, and the rate of domestic violence was really, really high. And with counseling, I'm starting to treat depression, change in.
Seems as though we're having some technical difficulties. I do apologize. You can call back 622-9785, 628-6093. You know, socializing and men depression, not having the ability to cope with the issues that they are faced with.
Yeah, that falls under what we call a biological system deficit, and into the medical domain of psychiatry. A psychiatrist, even a doctor of internal medicine, psychologist, these are professionals who are trained in dealing with issues, biological issues that are inherent in dysfunctional behavior in men.
I see. Well, as we wrap up this evening's program, I want to say thank you so much to you, Mr. Donald Berment.
Yes.
It was lovely having you on our set this afternoon, and I always say the cold truth, our set is always open to you. We welcome you at any given time. You know, you would like to, have discussions about your organization, the MOCOR, as well as, having discussions about domestic violence, parenting. That is something I absolutely love. I mean, law. Anything that you want to discuss?
It has been my pleasure.
It was a lovely discussion.
What you are doing is what is needed. Unfortunately, not enough is being done, and not enough appreciation is being paid for people like you doing this work, young people especially.
Thank you so much, my dear. We are out. Come to an end. I must say thank you so much to our viewing audience, as well as thank you so much to all of our callers. Thank you so much for your contributions. We certainly do appreciate all of them. I remind you to tune in tomorrow, same place, same time, Synergy TV, The Cold Truth. Thank you for watching. I am Kim Cole. We see you tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, our country power belongs to the people. Join us right here, Monday to Sunday, 4:45 p.m. to 5:45 p.m.